Welcome to episode 2 of the Voodu Warlock 2023 series. I am level 2 now. Haven't done anything since the last episode other than take level 2. So let's talk about any changes from the last episode. So, in this series, I'm trying to make as much information as I can accessible to new players. And some of the information I'm going over is going to be very, rudimentary to experienced players. But to new players, this is stuff that, there are so many things in this game that, how are you supposed to know unless somebody shows you, One of the things I always say on my live stream is DDO doesn't come with an instruction booklet. Maybe it did back in 2006 when you bought it in a box, but it doesn't anymore. So, last episode I talked about the importance of taking the quicken spell feats early on if you're doing Reaper mode, and your meta magic feats have to be dragged into your hotbar and activated by being turned on by clicking them. So you click it and you can see the little box around it. And you can see the little swirling box around it that tells you it's on. Next to it, I have my pact, which is I can see it's turned on because of the swirling. And then my... here I have my iconic past life stance, which is Shattered Kai, that gives me a nice layer of defense. It says when I drop below 50% hit points, I get 25% incorporeality for 6 seconds per stack, up to 18 seconds because I have it triple stacked. So it's a nice layer of defense. Can only trigger once every 2 minutes. And then for my epic past life stances, I have skill mastery. It gives me +3 to all skills, which includes things like Intimidate and Use Magic Device, as well as Spellcraft, all skills. I have Brace here for +3 to all saves. I have that triple stacked. Colors of the Queen I have triple stacked as well. And so on any kind of attack, this can work for unarmed, melee, and ranged attacks and spells. 7% chance to produce a random effect. Additional stacks of this past life feat reduce the triggered cooldown from 30 to 20 to 10 seconds. So especially in low B questing, when this procs, it's pretty nice. I'll be changing this over but once I get to endgame, but for now, the extra DPS is great. And when I get to endgame, I'll be switching it to a more defensive focused epic past life stance out of the Arcane Sphere. In fact, it'll be the MRR epic past life stance. And then I have energy criticals. That'll give me, since it's triple stack, 9% extra critical chance with my sonic spells. So it's the acid, cold, electric, fire, as well as sonic. But I don't do any of those other types, just sonic from the Fey pack. And I'll be switching that over to a more defensive epic past life stance. This is actually from the Primal Sphere, so I'll be switching that over to fast healing, and then the energy criticals from the Arcane Sphere, and I'll be changing that over to the MRR stance when I get to endgame. For my spells, I picked up Jump. Jump is a nice one. Not having a good jump really sucks, so having a jump spell at low level is really nice. I'll be changing that out by endgame and swapping it for Night Shield, having both the Shield and Night's Shield spells cast, because when You've Got My Back out of Fade Arc Illusionist, those will give me 10 extra PRR for casting the Shield spell and 10 extra MRR for casting the Night Shield spell. So nice layers of defense. And by then I'll have my jump maxed out for purposes of physically jumping. I don't have enough skill points yet to be maxing out my skills. I just added a point to concentration, spellcraft, and use magic device for now. On the gear side, I have the new gear set aside so I can discuss each piece individually. I have the runic trinket now. It's a level 2 trinket that comes from the end reward of Repossession, not to be confused with Stealthy Repossession in the last episode, but Repossession is part of the Sharn Syndicate chain. That's the Lobby chain in the market, not to be confused with the Sharn quests out in Sharn, which are level 15. This is the Lobby level, base level 4 chain in the market that it comes from the end reward. Probably about a 10% chance that you'll see it in the end reward. This is an unbound trinket. Gives me some spell points, spell focus mastery +1, insightful potency +14. Really nice trinket for any low B caster at level 2. I have some Canis crafted gloves, just gives me a little bit of impulse and 2 points of resistance. Adds 2 to all my saving throws. Impulse 43 will affect my Eldritch Blasting. And then I also have the Nicked Orb. This comes from the end reward of the Sharn Syndicate chain. And this has some potency on it. Spell Focus Mastery, Wizardry 60. You know, that stuff's not stacking, you know, with the stats here. Let's see, but I do have general potency out of the orb. So the insightful potency and the regular potency stack. So if you're new to DDO, to understand the stacking rules, a little bit confusing at first, but if you understand that what you're looking for is the type, the bonus type. If you want to know if 2 different things stack, you look at the bonus type. So when we look at potency 29, it says 29 equipment bonus to each individual spell power. And over here it says insightful potency 14, passive +14 insightful bonus to each individual spell power. So we have an equipment bonus and an insightful bonus. Because those 2 different types of bonuses, we know that they stack. But the Wizardry 60 here says this item grants you a +60 enhancement bonus to your maximum spell points. And here the Wizardry 60 says you get a +60 enhancement bonus to your maximum spell points. Because those are both enhancement bonuses, they do not stack. So if you have 2 of the same bonus types, you just get the better of the 2. And if you understand that, you're 95%, 99% on the way to understanding how stacking rules work in DDO. The next item here is just some lasting elixirs of bear stamina. If I need a little extra layer of survivability, this gives me +2 stacking constitution. This will stack with everything else except for the supreme ability potions that you get from the store and the daily rolls. It's the same bonus type there. And these are nice because it gives you an hour of this that doesn't disappear on death, and it doesn't count down in a public zone. So if I'm doing some tough content, I like to have some of those. In fact, I want to go ahead and put those on my hotbar. And finally, I have some Canith crafted armor. The potions, by the way, are available from the Monster Hunter trader in the Hall of Heroes, and I think they're 250 mysterious remnants each. So not something that you need to have, but you know, once you work up to a point where you have tons of mysterious remnants, then you know, having Constitution remnant potions and having maybe a caster stat is nice. This is a Constitution build, not a DC focused build, so I won't be using charisma ones, for example, like I would if I was doing a DC caster or DPS based caster. This is a Constitution build, so really I care more about survivability than anything else. My spells aren't going to have good DCs to land, which is why I'll be focusing on spells that aren't so DC focused, and we'll talk more about that when we get there. So this is a Canith crafted armor. I've crafted electrical absorption. It just helps with, you know, some of the, you know, kobold casters, the kobold shamans and waterworks and stuff, and you know, and the low B quests, and invulnerability gives me DR5/magic. That's nice for really low B questing. Isn't going to be a whole lot of help later on, but this is what I'll be wearing for a couple of levels. I don't have anything in the augment slots, just nothing to put in them. It is a scale mail, which is normally a medium armor. However, because it is mithril, that reduces the category to light armor. So I'm getting some higher armor bonuses than I normally would out of a light armor, and max dex bonus, or than I would out of light armor, because it's kind of like a medium armor that was made with a special material. In the event, we'll be swapping that out in a few levels to a Feycraft armor, but for now, this is what I'm going to go with. Actually, I'll be swapping that out in a couple levels for something that has augmented moderate fortification at level 4. All right, I think these are the only changes since last episode, so let's do some quests. Oh, one other thing I wanted to mention is that I am ranked 9, even though I didn't do any questing, because one of the things that I like to do is that when I do my daily rolls and I get those XP stones, I save the lobies. I don't just eat them right away. I don't eat any of them right away. I just put them in the shared bank. If it starts filling up, I put them on a mule. And then when I start a new life, I eat all the small ones. because really my goal is when I start a new life like this, I'm really trying to get to level 4 as fast as possible. In fact, if this had been any other life, I probably would have ate more to get me closer to 4, but for purposes of this series, we're just going to stop at rank 9. And I took it that far for a specific reason, and that is because I wanted to pick up chain shape. I really, really do not like playing a warlock until you get chain shape, because until then, you just got your single target blast, and that thing is awful to quest with, at least, if you're soloing. And this is going to be largely a solo series, so chain shape is a big, big boost when you get to it. And later on, we're actually going to be doing some cone shaping, but I don't have that available right now. I'm not sure when exactly I'll switch over to cone shape, maybe around level 8 or 9 or 10 or something. But we'll play with cone shape for a while. But wait, I thought this was an Enlightened Spirit build. It is, or it will be, but I won't actually be switching over to Enlightened Spirit until level 12, because Enlightened Spirit is kind of a lame tree until you get tier 5. And the reason for that is because, well, the Enlightened Spirit is an aura and bursting warlock. Now, you can get your aura right away here with core 1, but you don't get your first burst until way up here. So if you were going to do the Enlightened Spirit tree right away, you're just running around with an aura that's only ticking every 5 seconds, and swing a weapon around? It's not how I want to play this, although you could, if you wanted to supplement with Fade Arc Illusionist and do like illusionary weapons and stuff, or illusory weapons. That's one way you could play the Lobi, a Lobi version of this build. If you like, I've done it before just to play with it, but I'm just going to go with, I prefer to do the Chain Shape Blaster. So at level 12 is when you get your tier 5, and that's when you get your second blast. See, this blast you can't get till, I don't know, about level 4-ish. It says minimum level 3, but I think it's right at the end of 3. You have enough action points to get it. I can't remember, but even just an aura and one blast, it's just not fun. So I won't be switching over until level 12. I sometimes will switch over as early as level 9. I want to say something like 43 or 34 action points. I can't remember which, but it's enough to get both, when I can get Brilliance here and medium armor proficiency here and staunch here. That gives me some, a minimum layer of tankiness that I feel comfortable, running around with just one burst and being a little bit tanky if I'm running a group that really wants a tank. And that's, like I said, at level about halfway through level 9. But for this series, I will be playing it as a blaster until level 12. All right, I've already picked up Information is Key from the Leaky Dinghy there. And we're going to do Reaper 1 Skull. I know these Iron Defenders like to spit their grease on the ground, so I'm going to go ahead and click my Freedom of Movement, my Eternal Flask of Freedom of Movement, so I don't have to worry about sliding around in their grease. The reason I'm doing Reaper 1 Skull is because you get a larger bonus to regular XP. I'm not doing this for Reaper XP. I'm going to get very, very little Reaper XP out of this. But your first time completing Reaper difficulty, you get plus 95% bonus to regular XP. So we'll be doing, basically, up until level 12, we'll be doing all of our questing on R1 for the biggest bonus to regular XP. We'll be getting a little bit of Reaper XP along the way, but it won't really add up to much. We're going to be worrying about Reaper XP at endgame, because that is where you get your big, there's big Reaper XP available at endgame. And that's just because the way the Reaper XP formula works and stuff. And we'll talk more about that later in the series, emphasizing, focusing on endgame content in order to build your Reaper points. You don't get a whole lot of Reaper XP in Heroics. A little bit more in Epics, but it's Legendary Reapers is really where you want to get your Reaper XP from. Adventure pack there. I'm not going to worry about breakables. I always find that blasting to do breakables a little bit awkward. So I don't even bother, even though the breakables bonus does add to XP, both regular XP and Reaper XP, because I'm just soloing and I'm doing the blaster. I'm just too lazy to do it. You can do breakables if you want, when I'm doing a burster, bursting is great for breaking breakables. In fact, it's excellent for breaking breakables. So I'll definitely be focusing on there. And, you know, definitely like some of the bigger XP quests before I switch over, I'll make sure I get breakables bonuses there too. But this one, I'm not so worried about it. And there is a collectible up here. I love to get my collectibles because collectibles are used in Kenneth crafting recipes. In fact, big stacks of them, 5, 10, 15, or yeah, 5, 10, 15, 20. Now, just in case you're watching and maybe you have been away from the game for a really long time and you're like, collectibles, aren't those worthless things? Well, yeah, they were, most of them were pretty worthless. You know, going back like to 2014-ish. I think it was 2015 when the Kenneth crafting system was redone. And in the current Kenneth crafting system, collectibles are used a lot in all the recipes, pretty much. So yesterday I talked about my choice of just breakables there. I talked about my choice of Fey Patch a little bit. I said I really liked the I should say the last episode, which I made yesterday. I talked about Fey Pact and how I really liked the Misty Escape, but I forgot to mention that I also really like Odo's Irresistible Dance, which is one of the bonus spells that you get with Fey Pact. Odo's Irresistible Dance is a single target crowd control spell where you make a mob dance. And what's particularly nice about it for this character is because I don't have good DCs, because I'm not, I'm not a charisma caster. This is primarily a tank build. Because I don't have good DCs, my spells won't land very well. But Odo's Irresistible Dance has no save. So even though I'm going to have crappy DCs for most of my spells, Odo's Irresistible Dance has no save. So I'm going to be able to like dance a Reaper, for example, or dance a Nasty Caster or an Orange Name Mob or something without fail. What about Everard's Black Tentacles? Well, we'll talk more about that later. But Everard's Black Tentacles has an unusually calculated DC that does include a strength check. And so even not having good DCs, that spell will be valuable. And in low B questing, I'll be using spells like Web occasionally. Even though I'm not DC focused, in low B questing, I'm not going to need Uber DCs to have a Web that's functional. Well, it may not be great. I do have 3 Cleric past lives, and Cleric past lives add to Conjuration DCs. And those past lives can be triple stacked, so I have +3 to Conjuration DCs. Web is a Conjuration spell. So I do have +3 to my Web DCs right out of the gate. I also talked about how this tune has a +8 Supreme Ability Tome in the last episode. And I want you to realize that you don't get the full +8 right away. Okay? Stacks of ammunition are kind of heavy. I'm walking around without a lot of strength. So I guess that's just a pound in any event. Stacks of arrows can be heavy too, and heavy armor. So be careful, like when you don't have a lot of strength, about becoming encumbered. You don't want to walk around slowly and stuff like that. Okay, so I mentioned how I have a +8 Supreme Ability Tome, but you don't get that full bonus right away. So let me show you. You can click on feats here, and you can scroll down to special feats and inherent charisma, inherent constitution, your inherent bonuses. That's your tome bonuses. So when you hover over it, it says acquired 8 times, which means I have a +8 tome there for my charisma, and I do for all my stats. But if you look at the bottom of the tooltip, you'll see at level 1, it says you get +2 of that bonus. At level 3, that increases to +3. At level 7, I'll get +4 of it. At 11, +5, and so on until level 22, I'll get +8. Right now, +8 tomes are the highest that are available, but it's rumored that +9s will be available soon with the release of perhaps the Isle of Dread raid. We'll see. We'll know by the end of this series if that rumor is true. But for now, +8 is the best, and I'm only benefiting from 2 points of that at level 2. And just in case you've been taking a break, they did rescale at what levels you get those. So it used to be, you get the bonuses a little bit later on. And if you're new, tomes, like ability tomes, all tomes that I can think of, all tomes persist through reincarnation. So don't worry about reincarnating and losing your tomes. All your fate tomes, your destiny tomes, your skill tomes, your ability tomes, all of that stays with you through reincarnation. And it's worth mentioning that a long time ago, they didn't used to. About, I don't know, 10 years ago or so, that changed. So I'm actually going to look at every single item in my reward list to see if there's anything interesting. Maybe like double slotted items or something else that might have a value to a lobby. Nothing too interesting there. Let's keep moving through the harbor. I haven't decided at this point in the series how many quests I'm going to be including at every level. Part of me wants to just do it all. Include every quest that I do as part of the series. In other series, I have just done one quest per level. We're just going to wing it. Now, I didn't do any of the level 1 quests. That is, Korthos, and that is Keep on the Borderlands. You can certainly do those if you want to. There's so much XP available in the game now compared to the olden days that we can really pick and choose the content that we want to do. You don't have to repeat quests anymore like you used to back in the day. In fact, throughout the entire heroic leveling process, there's literally only 4 quests that I will repeat. 2 of them are lobbies, and one of them was featured in the first episode, and that's Stealthy Repossession, because I know I can get to level 2 just by doing that one on Reaper, One Skull, and Elite back to back. I will also repeat Kobold's New Ringleader, which is also a level 2 quest. And that's probably what we're going to wrap up today's episode with. But then again, I'm probably going to hit level 3 before that, so maybe that'll be in the next one. We'll see. So Chain Shape's great because it bounces around between multiple targets. And it's really kind of neat looking, although it looks like the visual's not really happening. Can't really see it bouncing around too much. You can see that it's damaging other mobs, but it's not showing the visual right now, so maybe it's bugged. But I think it lets you hit 3 targets at a time. And it can go around corners too, so if I'm shooting from here, see how it's bouncing around to mobs I can't even see, which is kind of neat. Now here's a Fear Reaper, and Fear Reapers can be really scary, especially on higher skulls. And Fear Reapers throw a stacking dot. You can see right here, I have this Fear, and that's going to continue to count down even after it dies. Oop, I guess I got out of its range. So the sort of trick with Fear Reapers, and I like what Nimban says, my fellow guildie and fellow content creator / live streamer, he says you got to confront your fears or run away from your fears. That's how you can remember how you need to deal with a Fear Reaper, okay? So a Fear Reaper screams and gives you those stacking dots, and if you get too many stacks, it starts to get really hard to recover from, especially on higher Reaper, because on higher Reaper, the higher the Reaper, the higher skulls, the more damage they do. If you're within melee range of a Fear Reaper, its Fear dot doesn't affect you. And if you're at a distance from the Fear Reaper, it doesn't affect you. In fact, we saw it was about right here that its scream stopped affecting me. So it's not a super long range. I can hit it with my blast, and you can hit it, if you're other kind of spellcaster or range tune, you can hit it with ranged attacks and spells and be outside of its Fear scream radius. So that's definitely a tactic that you want to use around Fear Reapers. You don't want to be in that in-between space if you're ranged. You want to be further away so that you're not affected by that dot. Or if you're soloing, maybe you might want to be right up next to it. You got a Famine Reaper, and those are casters. Now, normally what I'd want to do is put on my spell absorption, but I don't have spell absorption available at this low level. So hopefully it'll just throw, you know, magic missiles and my shield will absorb it. My shield spell. In fact, I'm going to redo my shield spell. And my jump while we're here. A little trap here. No problem. Sometimes people ask me, what do you do about traps? And I say, I survive them. Yep. This is going to be a highly defensive build, and traps aren't so scary when you have high defenses. When you're squishy, traps are deadly. But when you have high defenses, including saves, hit points, and all that jazz, well, traps aren't so scary. Now I want to show you another little tip that I meant to show you before we started questing when I was talking about Quicken Spell. Okay, this is a mana savings tip that, you know, when you apply Quicken to spells, it makes them cost 10 spell points more. Okay, so you might not want to quicken all your spells. Like, for example, your buffs, right? You're just throwing your long-term buffs at the start of a dungeon. So maybe you don't want them to be quickened. Do you have to sit here and toggle it off and cast your buffs and then toggle it back on? No. You can just right-click your buffs and you can manually toggle quicken for always off. You see that? Quicken is set to always off. And I can do that for all my buffs I want to. Now this build does not use, because it's not a caster, it's more of a tank, doesn't use a lot of spell points. So I actually just go ahead and leave my buffs quickened. And by the way, you know, you can choose always on, always off, or standard means if you have it on, it will apply it. If you have it toggled off, it won't apply it. That's what standard means. So I'm just going to go ahead and leave quicken on for my buffs, because like I said, I don't go through a lot of spell points on this build anyways. Drink a couple potions. Looks like one's good enough. Potions of Cure Serious Wounds. Heal myself a bit. Now, if you don't recognize my armor and this cloak that I'm wearing, the armor is the Reaper Plate, and that is a cosmetic reward that you can get from the Night Rebels special event that comes out in October. That's the Halloween event. And then the cloak, the sash that I'm wearing, is the Deathwalker sash, and that's a reward for getting to level 20 from Hardcore Season 1. And then the Hardcore Season 5 one looked like this as well, except that it had a Roman numeral 5 at the bottom. But you can see mine's from Hardcore Season 1. It has the Roman numeral 1 there. Hardcore, if you're not familiar with what that is, it's a special event server, open typically for 3 months at a time, and it's a permadeath server, a competition server, where people try to, you know, make as much progress as they can in one life. Oops, I didn't pull the lever, the valve to open up muck. And there are various rewards in Hardcore. There's a reward, this sash, like for example, was the reward for getting to level 20 in Hardcore Season 1 and 5. And then there's another cloak that's available if you get like 10 Reaper points. There's a mount in some of them if you got like 5,000 favor. Hardcore Season 1 had some bloody footprints. So things like that, cosmetics. Nothing that's going to increase your character's power, but just fun cosmetics to go for. Okay, Muck wasn't up. He would have been right there. And that's where your Muckbane drops from, which is a little club that's good to use against like oozes and rust monsters for lobby questing. All right, well, I think I'm going to wrap up this episode right here because we dinged level 3. So I'm going to go take level 3. And we'll talk about the changes at level 3, gear, feats, and all that good stuff in the next episode. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can make a comment in the video. And feel free to stop by the live stream, where I'm live streaming on Twitch channel Voodu Spice nearly every day, if you want to ask questions and get answers in real time. And you can also post questions to my build post in the Warlock forum. See you soon.